Hi, hello, and welcome to Thoughtful Little Time Bombs. I hope you're well. I thank you for returning, if you're returning, and if this is your first visit, I welcome you most sincerely, and I hope that you are intrigued enough to return. So, Thoughtful Little Time Bombs, briefly, is about ideas I'm going to throw at you. Some may make sense, some may not make sense. They may not make sense to you now, but they may make sense to you 2 o'clock on a Monday morning when things do not seem to make sense, and all of a sudden a little idea can bring everything together and propose a way forward. Okay, so let's get on with it. So let's get going. Theme this week is nearly never reaches. Be probably supporting that one most of the time. I will also be reminding you of other things which I keep throwing at you, which is that time is not endless, and that we have only so much time left to us to achieve things that we have not been able to achieve in the past for various reasons. That is our unlived life, and we can do our very best to complete as much of it as possible if we choose to. Not everything we wanted to do in the past, our unlived life, makes sense to us now, so some things just do fall away, but some things remain important, and they have emotions attached to them, feelings. So that's the unlived life, I think, which are the components of that unlived life are the most important ones to us. The theme this week, more or less, is nearly never reaches, and I think we're going to talk about obstacles we create ourselves, and obstacles that other people create for us, and obstacles that we allow other people to create for us, because I don't know what, lack of confidence, lack of self-belief that we can achieve an end. I think these days of life unlived not only as past events but also future events, because in the past I regret not having done things, and for most of them I can come up with damn good reasons why they weren't done in the past, and that's because of responsibility. That's because of caring enough for people to put your needs aside. That is noble, that is dignified, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just leaves you with a certain sadness and emptiness in a part of your soul of things you haven't been able to do. But because I'm doing them now, it means that many of them I won't be able to achieve. So therefore I've got to be rational and think of which ones are the most important ones to me. Which ones do I have the resources and the time to achieve? I would like to achieve as many things unachieved in the past, now and in the near future, and I want to make sure that I have the skills to make sure that there are no more unlived moments in my life. That's where I am. So nearly never reaches, quite simply, in terms of, I've told you before, I used to climb. Think in terms of it of 100-foot climb. Anything that gets in the way, I think of it in terms of, I start at the bottom, there's a rope attached to my harness, I have somebody who it is a privilege to have as a friend, as a colleague, holding the rope, and up I go. I need to have the energy to climb a vertical cliff with minor holds, with protection which is a bit doubtful, but I know, because I've done it so many times in the past, that I have the strength to just about do it. If I apply myself technically with a bit of style means you're doing things efficiently, I can climb that 100-foot cliff. I can do it because I have just about the right amount of energy to do it. If I allow anything to distract me while I'm climbing, for instance, other people, others, then maybe, by being distracted, I only have the energy for 99 feet, which means that I can't get further than 99 feet, and the last foot is impossible. And therefore, the more people and ideas and distraction and lack of confidence, whatever it is, I won't get to the top. And with difficult 100-foot climbs, if you don't make the top, you will come off. Hopefully the protection will stay in, the pitons, the carabiners that the ropes are going through, they will all hold. They may not. So it's a 100-foot climb, and every time I do anything to diminish the energy that I have dedicated towards an end, it means I won't reach the top. And as I say, in the past we tend to create problems for ourselves and allow other people to make problems for us. So there has to be a precision of application. When I climb, I climb. That's all I do. I don't think of anything else. I just focus on the task in hand, getting from A to B vertically, as quickly, as efficiently as possible. Victory comes to those who persist, those people who have intent and they put it into action and they achieve. 100-foot climb, 100-meter climb, 1,000-foot climb, doesn't matter. You aspire and then you work. And the gap between intent and action should be as brief as possible. Because what's been a problem for many of us in the past is that intent and then action can take a lot of time. And some things I want to do now, I began doing 40 years ago. I mentioned it before. So the gap between intent and action on that one is 40 years. I like to get it down to seconds next time in order to save time. And as I say, time is against us. One day we will run out of time. Who am I trying to impress? Am I trying to impress someone? I would say that in the past I was trying to impress those people who are important to me in my life, and I'm thinking in terms of family. And a number of those are no longer with us, but I still consider them as part of my support team. And I'm also lucky. I don't have many friends, and it doesn't worry me, because the friends I do have, I feel privileged to have them as my friends. And when I started realizing that was my philosophy with regard to friendship, one of complete, wholehearted commitment to the other, to my friends, then life became easier and I became more, not cynical. I decided that there was me and the people I was privileged to know, and there was the other. The other are people who believe they have a right to know me, whereas in fact I consider it a privilege to know me and what goes on in my head. So we got the others. In the past, many of the things I wished to do were destroyed because of others, and I am afraid that I might be trying to achieve things out of revenge for them. And the problem is that we do allow them to come in. And if we're going to do something with our lives, there is a danger we'll do it out of revenge against these people. I don't like that idea anymore. What I do is nobody's business. I prefer to do things in secret. I'm not a secretive person. All I know is that the more the world around me, not those I'm privileged to know, the rest of them know about what I do, it diminishes the energy I have to achieve something, because I believe that the others are psychologically watching me. This is not paranoia. This is a form of bullying indoctrination that we have to get rid of. So I dismiss revenge, and I've decided not to give away any of my power, any of my energy, any of my dreams. Because I know that every time I give away something unnecessarily to somebody who doesn't deserve it, I'm taking a foot away from the top of the climb. I'm removing my way And if I don't watch it, I'll be so far away from the top of the climb that I am in danger of falling. And if you fall while climbing, there is a good chance that you will injure yourself. And I put myself into that situation of diminishing the energy on the climb because I have allowed others to come into my head. Now, this is an extreme version of it. However, it is about energy that we apply and the energy that we have given to people we allow into our heads that shouldn't be there. So we've got to be professionals. We have to apply professionalism and just get rid of them. And as I said earlier, working on achieving those things from the past that rendered our past life not completely lived teaches us the skills we need to achieve things in the future. We live in a world where people so casually throw out information about themselves, sensitive, intimate information about themselves, because they feel they need to, that they need the whole world to acknowledge who they are. And I'm sure that you are like me. It's that I do not like people who haven't fully considered the situation making themselves vulnerable that easily. I have a tendency to, if I'm going to fail at anything I do, and I fail at many things that I have over the years, and one of the most important things I've learned over the years is it's always best to fail in secret, out of public view, and even to succeed in private, in secret. I no longer need a world of whom I know very little to acknowledge that I exist. I just want to do things, and I want to do them to my satisfaction. And for me, I do not need an audience when I achieve those things. I believe that when we bring others into consideration, that we are creating obstacles for ourselves, because we're thinking, instead of thinking, how do I achieve this, we're thinking maybe along the lines, but if it's only a few percentage of what would they think of this? Would they laugh at this? Would they find this silly? Would they be cynical? Would they be supportive? So it's important for me. Let's say, for instance, I was losing weight. I would not tell other people I was losing weight. I would just do it. I would just start adjusting my life, and I would do everything quietly and secretly. Eventually somebody would work it out that there's less on me this week than there was a month ago. But it remains my secret, and it is my satisfaction when I look at the weighing machine and see that I am 5 pounds lighter this week than I was last week, or that I am disappointed that I've only lost 1 pound this week compared to the 3 I lost the other week. All this is happening in secret, in private. It's nobody else's business. I'm not going to go on social media and give a report of every step, every ounce, every pound, every stone I lose. I find it diminishing. It steals energy, because I now depend on other people to make me feel good. Well, it's my job. So I want to work hard to achieve my dreams. Therefore, I have to withdraw from public view, in a sense, intellectually, psychologically. So that's another self-created obstacle. And a couple of weeks ago I was talking about the Friday night with people I still love and respect. I don't see them as often, but I do think of them and I regard them as highly today as I did then. It's just that my psychology changed. We used to go out every Friday, and it would be same conversations more or less every Friday night along the same lines, football the following day, or politicians, or something else, general. And we drink 6 pints. I think 6 pints is probably the most I could drink anyway, just volume-wise. And involved lots of trips to the loo, but that would be it. And the conversations would be the same, ordinary. People would be sitting in the same places, and at the end of the evening, on the way home, inevitably we'd stop at the Chinese takeaway, and it would be chips, peas, gravy, and a fried egg on top, and eaten with the plastic fork in the plastic tray. We did it for a long time. There's nothing wrong in that. We all worked hard, we all paid taxes, national insurance, we were all decent people, and we continue to be, I hope. But one day, and it's inevitable, once you start thinking differently, you start thinking in terms of, what am I doing here? What is this? Is this taking me anywhere at all? And one of those calculations that one can make, if one thinks about it, is, how much is this costing me? That would be somewhere in the region of about £50. I know, I thought that was expensive, but then I spoke to my friend about this when she was a girlie, and they'd have girly evenings out on weekends. On a Saturday night they'd go to a club, and they'd have more fun dancing with each other and drinking and giggling than ever chasing men. But they would spend, including taxi home and everything, more than 50 quid, more than £50. Add that up across the weekend, and let's say doing it 50 Fridays or Saturdays a year, sometimes spending more, sometimes spending less, sometimes not turning up because of holidays and such. That's about £2,500 a year spent on doing something you don't particularly like. At the end of the day, it's just that you've done it and you can't really come up with something else to do. And I started thinking about it. Didn't stop me buying around for other people, and if there was enough people around, then a round could cost up to £30. But everybody, as I said, decent, everybody bought their round of beer and chips, crisps and peanuts or whatever. You start making calculations, and one of the most obvious calculations is in a brief life and in a world that is becoming smaller technically, but still as large geographically, is how far around the world could a plane ticket costing £2,500 take me? And I think that it is possible, if you had just a couple more, about £500 on top of that you can get a round the world ticket. And all I'm doing is incrementally peeing it against the wall at the back of a pub locally. Imagine if we'd had taxis to that as well. My God, that would have been incredible. So gradually these calculations creep up on you, and you just all of a sudden don't come round. And as I've said before, you make excuses, but if we are decent people, which we are, the further away from the truth we step, to explain it, then the more uncomfortable it becomes. But £2,500 on something you don't want to do every year is silly. So I once had to give a speech, and there were three of us there. One was a noble gentleman, and he brought a speech with him, and the table rattled when he dropped it on the table, and he went on and on and on and on. And he sat down, round of applause, thank God he's finished. Then the second person got up, and he decided to compete for attention, for intellectual appreciation, and eventually he sat down, and there was another applause of relief, not enough so as to encourage the person to get up and go again. I had not been looking forward to this, but I prepared loads of notes, and I had about 5 pages of notes, and the more they spoke, I just brought it down to 5 words, and I stood up when it was my turn, and I spoke articulately, eloquently, I hit the targets. I give myself 5 targets, 1 card with 5 words on it, and I sat down and I got a bigger round of applause because I hadn't ensured that the suffering went on. Afterwards, I just sat there for a while, waited for everybody to leave so I could gather my notes, and I knew that everybody will have moved past the buffet by then, and breathed on it, sneezed on it, poked it, whatever. But I was hungry because of nerves of the speech. I hadn't eaten. So I then went out, and I was congratulated by somebody who guessed it was me coming out of the hall and said, "Nice speech, Will. It was brief." And then I looked at the buffet. It was beige. The only thing green was a bit of lettuce that somebody had trodden into the carpet. And I decided then that I would never ever go to a beige buffet again. If somebody wanted me to turn up for anything, it would have been 20 quid a head, £20 a head, £25 a head buffet, which had plenty of colour. And I would never serve a meal to my friends ever again that lacked colour. That beige buffet summed up where I was. And one simple decision of getting out of there was to decide to add tomato, to add radishes, to add lettuce. I do exercise 5-6 days a week. I vary it, quite simply vary it actually. One day I will run, the next day I will walk, and I will do weight work as I walk with 2 10-pound dumbbells. I have in my life a line over which I will not step back. Okay, it's a moral one as well as a practical one. Morally, I will not step away from the right thing. I will not be compromised. I've learned that by example of my family and my friends. But when it comes to exercise, exercise is tough. Running is tough because it's painful, and your chest hurts, your legs hurt, and I run about 8 kilometers, 5 miles, when I do it every other day. And it is tough, and it's up and it's down, but I don't stop. The rule for me is once I start, I don't stop, and that's fixed. It wasn't always fixed. The only time that is not fixed is when the rain is horizontal, when it's frozen, when it's snow, or there is something important has arisen, whether it's practical or whether it's emotional in the life of somebody important to me, at which point I abandon everything and go to them because I know they would come to me. So I have that line, and it also, running is difficult, bad for the legs. It's not bad for the legs, it's painful for the legs. And also lifting weights. And I do it in a way that is a sequence of repetitions all the way up and down, back to the house. And I keep myself in constant tension. So it's constant. And once I start, I don't stop. Doesn't matter how painful, and it becomes ridiculously painful because I add features to lifting the dumbbells, which is I squeeze. That's where the pain and the development comes with lifting weights. It's not lifting them. That's quite straightforward and simple. It's when you lift them to a tension point, you squeeze with your hands. That hurts. But once I've started, I will not finish. And it's something I do with my projects, my little dreams. I'm running out of time. It hurts. It's an emptiness in me that tells me you could have done it in the past. There were things that stopped, but there were just points of sheer bloody laziness and apathy. And as I said, Friday nights in the pub, and chips, peas, gravy, and fried bloody egg on top. So one thing, having that line over which I will not step, and I will not stop once I've started an exercise or anything I'm doing, is that it is a solid platform. And it's something I was trying to explain to somebody who decided he wanted to live his life on a sofa years ago, having ambition, but also wanting to sit on the sofa watching television, smoking and drinking gallons of tea with 3 spoonfuls of sugar in it. Is I said jumping from a solid platform when I was talking about his adopted family. You jump higher off a solid platform. You stand on a sofa and try and jump. Most of your weight and momentum will go downwards and you will hardly reach any height at all. So for me, the rule about starting and not finishing until it's done is written in stone. And it's something I do and something I cannot avoid. And it is exhausting. I would sooner give up at 8:30 and go and sit down, me and the cat, to discuss his winnings on the horses for the day. But I carry on. I will finish it, especially if it comes to my French, because my French struggles most of the time. As a language, it leaves my mouth battered and injured. But I do my best. And if I'm a few inches ahead this week than I was last week, then that's progress from my point of view. It's probably still heartbreak for those trying to teach me. And the point being that wishing and hoping doesn't achieve anything. You've got to do something. You can't expect ducks to get in a row, magic to happen, the grand wibbly wobbly to intervene and say, here we go, there it is, don't have to make any effort, it's there ready for you. I'm not sure I'd want that anyway. But in terms of ducks in a row, that's what the National Lottery is about. That's how you earn millions. Trying to get 5 ducks or 6 ducks in a row is an impossibility. And it will never happen. So waiting for magic to happen, it won't. The only way that magic happens is if you apply yourself with practical intention and professionalism that you've learned in pursuit of your own dreams. That's where magic happens. It's a process of quantitative things you do. I do this, I do that, and I will get to this last thing. Each one of those you tick off, so it's quantitative, it's done, it's almost a physical act, as it were. And hitting the dream is emotional, it's qualitative, which is the payoff. But you've got to work incredibly hard to achieve it. And that's the buffing one I mentioned before, I got to it earlier. And the wings of time are flapping like buggery away from me. And one thing they are doing is they're obliging me to be desperate about achieving things. And being desperate about achieving things and having the line of, once I've started, I don't go back, doesn't matter how exhausting it is that it makes me brave. And I'm an incredibly shy person, but because of time passing, and I may never get a chance to say this or to do this again, and this moment has passed, then it makes me brave. It makes me brave. And the universe will one day call our bluff. It will one day call our bluff and say, you know that tomorrow we're going to do it. Yeah. Today is your last tomorrow. You've got no more tomorrows. It's today. So I'm calling you a bluff, and you blew it. It's that kind of thing that scares the bejesus out of me. And also, finally, and I bring it back to Napoleon. Victory comes to those who persist, who don't give up, who start something and have a rule that they don't stop once they've started. It's a habit to get into. And we've mentioned habits in the past. You do something on 23 consecutive days and it becomes a powerful habit. Working hard is a habit. Not stopping working is a habit. Even when you don't feel like it, starting work is a habit. And as I say, these are all lines that we will not step back from. So, nearly never reaches is true. It's professionalism in our attitude that takes us that last 1 foot. which we reach the top of the climb and that one foot is getting on the top and stepping away from the edge. And we have to dedicate ourselves to doing that. There we are. Advance like usual. I do this. That's what Thoughtful Little Time Bombs is. The Wibbly Wobbly speaks through me, the Grand Wibbly Wobbly, let's be respectful. And in there are things you might choose to reflect on. I hope you do. If you haven't got anything out of this week, then pop back next week or look at previous videos and you may well find things in there. It's about being disciplined, but also hanging on desperately to your dreams of yesterday unaccomplished, which you are now going to accomplish, and dreams for tomorrow, which you will accomplish because you've learned the skills from doing the things you haven't done before. I will finish by asking you to, it's free, to subscribe, to like, to share. Maybe somebody else you know wants this kind of stuff, or to be entertained, and even comment. So that's subscribe, like, share, comment. Once again, I thank you very much for turning up. You are most kind. I wish you great energy and great endeavour, and may your dreams be achieved simply because you decided that they would be. Take care.